Technology, amazing. Thanks for coming, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Oh, are you sure you work in technology?
We're good.
Okay. Really lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me, UXPA. Always nice to meet some new people. And I guess I'm going to talk about my creative process. I don't know if I really have one. I don't know if anyone has one. Kind of make it up as we go along and then, pretend to write books about such things. And I'm also taking a bit of a risk, actually, because this is, as you can see, this ain't PowerPoint. So I kind of got sick of Keynote and PowerPoint corrupting my presentations and making these big things. So part of what we do is taking risks. I thought, screw that, I'll make my own thing. So it's the first time I've ever used it, so which could be bad. So we can do shit like this. User experience people. Right, so no, there's no reason for it to do with that. So other than me to go, 3D. So let's start. These are my business cards. I've only got one with me tonight, actually, because I kind of ran out of the house and they take 19 minutes each to print. Really practical. But I really like them because I think a business card should be something that you give it to someone in a meeting, a client meeting, or just meeting someone in the pub, and you want to leave a memento of you. That's the whole point. And for me, the idea of a business card made out of a Duplo brick and a 3D printed thing on top of it is kind of represents me, because this bit where there's a space, and that space allows the addition of other things. And I think that's all I do. I just glue things together. So we're going to talk about gluing things together, we're going to talk about collecting things, we're going to talk about curation, and then we're going to talk about combinations. Now, I'm going to take you back in time before we do any of that. This is how I kind of started. I think throughout my career, unbeknownst to me, I've always been interested in cutting things together from ready-made things, what Marcel Duchamp calls ready-mades. He did when he was alive. And so I like that idea that these things exist and then you can cut them up and you can put them together in new, interesting ways to make new things. Not a new idea, of course. There was a guy called Double D Steinsky. Steinsky was this guy who, before he got into this stuff, he worked on Madison Avenue many, many years ago in the 80s. And he decided he was going to make records out of pre-existing recordings, and he would make these amazing records. So you can get his greatest hits on iTunes now. And I was really inspired by this. I'm not a trained designer, and no doubt you'll go, we know. So I've always been interested in technology to make things with. I've not been interested in technology per se. So back in the sort of early 90s, I realised that you can use computers to make music, and I had a record contract for a while. You were Vitamin B, Brent? Yes, I was. So I made about 400 quid. Didn't change my life. But they were basically records that I would record like World in Action and make like acid house tracks and stuff. And so I was part of the rave scene in Manchester for a while and made zero money. But what I did love to do was splice together using a razor blade and pieces of tape. I would splice together these crazy records, and I think that's all I actually do now, is splice together things. That's a real key part of my process. Nothing more than that. So gluing things together. Isn't this an amazing piece of design? Yeah, we just see it every day and we go, whatever, glue. But it's, yellow. I think if there's one object that's influenced me, it's this Yoo-hoo glue. Because it's like my favourite typeface, and it's yellow and black. What's not to like? It's in B&Q. It's not in an art gallery. B&Q. Amazing. So these things surround us, but I love the idea of gluing things together. I like crazy things that surprise people, I guess. So this was one I did back in 2004, probably earlier. The idea of, well, I was actually asked to speak at a design conference in Chicago, and they were really on at me to try and create some kind of session that would like blow people's minds, blow Americans' minds at this conference. And you know, they were really hassling me before it, and they rang me up and I said, look, I looked around the shelves and I said, I'll interface Play-Doh with a computer and use it to control the computer. And they went, awesome! I put the phone down, I went, shit. And I said, you know, because then you committed, right? So I swear to God, in the hotel room, the night before I was due to do this talk, I put this thing together. And I managed to put it together because the way I work is I have lots of little discrete things that do one thing well, but by themselves aren't particularly amazing. So I kind of knew how to track colour with a camera and work out how much the area of colour, work out that number. You know, you work out the area that it can see, and that's a number. Numbers are amazing because then they can be used to control things. They can be transposed onto other things. So you go, okay, well, let's transpose the amount of red in Play-Doh to control, obviously, a kung fu movie. So that's the speed, and as I manipulate the Play-Doh, this is all in real time, there's no CGI. You can tell, I know there's no CGI, but shit. But now it's, you know, playing at half the speed. Less Play-Doh, less speed. And again, you know, and going, is this about 2 hours long? Enjoy. So, you know, you play around with stuff, and it's, what I was trying to do was alter what we think an interface can be. Never go back again. You make more Play-Doh on the screen, and the opposite happens. Computer blows up. So, when I showed this, there was sort of two reactions. And when you make stuff, you're thinking, what is this? You never want just like an ordinary reaction. You never want anyone to go, it's all right. Who wants to make stuff like that? You want either people to love your work or hate your work, nothing in between. And so one person stood up and said, it was kind of like magic. And I was like, yes, let's get married. And then another guy stood up, I think he was wearing chinos, and he stood up and he said, it's nice and all, but what's the point? And I said, you know, there is no point. There is no spoon. So, you know, there is no point to this. It's just kind of fun, and it alters our perception of what an interface could be. And part of the process of creativity is making things just for the point of making them. Now, you also put this stuff out there, because the web is this amazing medium where we can publish all this stuff. You don't know who's going to look at that. You don't know where this is going to lead. And it's because of this ridiculous experiment, it's because of this that the agency I was with at the time, the BBC saw this and they said, we want that. We don't want that. We don't have any use for Play-Doh controlling anything, but we want the thinking behind it. And we ended up working for the BBC because of this throwaway thing for like 10 years on super big projects. And really what you're doing with this kind of stuff is putting your personality out there in the world. Doesn't matter if some people will hate it, people are always going to hate your stuff, but hopefully there's also people going to love your work. So a lot of times I really love disrupting things. I think we live in a world that is a kind of, you know, flatlining, middle mind, you know, let's not upset anyone, you know. Well, screw that, I want to upset people. I also want to make people laugh and stuff. But I love the idea of disruption. Try this one at home tonight, it's amazing. You can give it to the man. It's really super simple. Get a load of M&Ms, put them in water, 10 minutes later the M&Ms float off. And you go, yeah, branding, screw you. It's like, it's amazing, right? And you can do it, so I love disrupting these things. It's just M&Ms, people. That's it on that slide, nothing more to say on that one. So I love disrupting the status quo, putting these things out there that are kind of a demonstration of my personality. Stuff like this is kind of like, I don't know, it's certainly anti-usability, because I think there's always room in the world to put these things out there and cause a bit of debate. You know, who says that these things can't be done? So again, this is quite old. I really wanted to create an interface that was about serendipity and the idea of bumping into things you didn't know you were looking for. And who remembers this thing called Flash? Yay, Flash, we love you. Right, so you were cool, come back. So a lot of my career was based on things made in Flash. I wrote various books on it and stuff. And it was a great tool for putting stuff out there because you could fuse code and art and design and make this amazing work. So I was a bit bored with the linear type of viewing experience of the web. I think the web is amazing, and it is serendipitous in itself, but how can we crank the serendipity really up to 11? So I created this kind of mad interface where I asked myself the question. I think you should always ask yourself questions every day. So I wake up every day asking myself questions, difficult questions. So what if there was no interface? What would happen? So I create this thing, it's called DoodleBuzz. You can go to doodlebuzz.com if you have Flash somewhere. And you can search for a news item, say you search for news about New York City, and then you draw a line, and it shows all the results in a chaotic, mad way. These are all results of a news API, and then you draw a line to sort of drill down and read it. And it's all a bit mad and chaotic, and it's like usability, people's brains are just gone. You know, and then the idea is that there's then connected subjects. So we went from New York City, now we're looking at stuff with Tehran. You can click through as well to any of this stuff. And so it's all chaotic. It's a celebration of chaos in an interface. And you can see now we're going to look at United Nations, and it's infinite. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And you know, the point is here that I don't want to surf Amazon like this. I don't want to search Google like this. It's crazy, you know. And I love Amazon for how that is. But sometimes you kind of there's a sort of nice celebration here of maybe there is a different way to do things occasionally. This gets shown at a lot of education conferences, weirdly, because I think it appeals to students of a certain age, introduces people to the idea of news and news gathering and stuff. It's kind of crazy. And you can zoom out, so you can make group pictures if you so desire. But that whole thing came out of the idea of iteration. Iteration is a really big part, as we all know, of any creative process. I would say iteration is more important in many ways than innovation. So I make lots of different things, from software to hardware to, as the title suggested, things out of plastic. For me, this was probably the best thing I've ever made. From a design and simplicity point of view, I kind of fell in love with this thing. And some of you may even own one, I don't know. But this was called Movie Peg. It was a £5.99 piece of plastic kind of thing. And I got this idea when I was coming back from London one night. I wanted to watch a film on my iPhone many years ago. And you know, I was trying to prop it up on my bag, and I didn't have one of those tripod-y things. So I just sketched out an idea for a stand for an iPhone, and got home that day and that night and made it out of cardboard. And then the company I was with at the time, I thought, there might be something in this. We want to make our own products anyway. We know nothing about tooling or plastic or anything. We came from a web design company. So we made this thing, and it was called Movie Peg. And it's a piece of plastic with a slot cut in it. And it slides up and down to alter the angle. It can go portrait and landscape. And for me, as an object, I'm kind of obsessed with, even though the previous thing is complex, the older I get, I'm more obsessed with simplicity and trying to make things as simple as they can be. So I was really proud of this little thing, and so much so that the company we started eventually went bust because I realised that I know nothing about business. Yeah, basically get creative people to work with business people would be a lot better. So yeah, this thing, you know, really works on the branding and the different colours and all this kind of stuff. Super duper simple, and you can see this, the shape of it, it was an iPhone 3 at the time. But the reason I wanted to show you this is my favourite slide about iteration and how sometimes you can get it right the first time. You know, we kind of live in a culture now where we're obsessed with versions. You ever seen this thing on the App Store where an app is released and it's probably brilliant, it's just perfect. And then a month later, if there's been no updates, people go, is this product dead? It's like, no, it was great, what's wrong with it? There ain't Mona Lisa Part 2, you idiots. You know, it's like, why can't we have apps that just version 1 is okay, you know? But we don't, that's the culture that we live in, is, you know, constantly updating things, that's how it is. So, occasionally though, this kind of thing happens. So, on the left is the original thing I cut out of cardboard as the idea, and then I took it into the company and they said, right, oh God, this could be good, you know, this could be a thing that people would buy. We have no idea how to make this thing, but let's give it a go. And then what happens is, we all then have meetings, don't we, where people get involved. It's great. You know, we've got to include everyone, haven't we, because surely you can't, on your own, there's no way you can have solved it. And then we have meetings. So we then go, well, maybe it should be bigger. Yeah, probably, you know, hold it better and stuff. Yeah, and now let's laser cut it. Oh no, it's a bit too big now. Let's make it back down to the smaller one. Yeah, a bit smaller. Oh shit, it's the one we started with. Thank you for wasting my life. You know, that's what that is, right? But hey, this is how it's done. Meetings, everyone, fabulous. So, but generally, iterative processes are good, but maybe this was a point difference. So, I love making bombs now. Don't go through the airport with these kind of things. When I'm doing conferences in other countries, I kind of stopped taking these things through now because they kind of look at me a bit differently. Yeah, I love, you know, Arduinos, and I'm sure we've got people in the audience who play with Arduinos. This is electric imp, which is it's almost like an Arduino inside it. It's all on that SD card shaped thing, and that connects to the Wi-Fi as well. It's just amazing. And for me, as someone, I just want to make stuff. I don't want to worry about the plumbing. Plumbers are great when you've got a leak in your house. They're great. You call them up, they come round eventually, and they fix your stuff, and it's fantastic. I don't want to be a plumber. I want to make things, and I want the infrastructure to be done for me, because then I can just concentrate on the ideas. So I love to play around with this stuff. You can see this was a button that connected to the internet, and when I pressed it, it marked that moment in time, which eventually became an app. But it's all self-contained, and I kind of love the fact this is this tiny thing, it's all battery operated, yet this is a button that's connected to the internet, which kind of excites me. And I'm not an electronic engineer. I look at this stuff and you just learn how to use it. That's where you just Google everything. And I always think, well, if that person can do it, then why can't I? Probably not as good as that person, but I can. All this stuff is kind of in the same way the record stuff was all hacking things together to create something. This is hacking in a different kind of way. Incidentally, apparently the first use of the word hacker, was someone who made furniture with an axe. Is that great? It's like someone was like, no, you can have your find me home thing, but that's bullshit. I mean, take an axe to it. It really does describe hacking, So I love that. Anyway, I digress. So I love to make these objects that I was just saying before that I don't write about design. I don't write essays on design or anything like that. I kind of hate writing, I can't write anymore, to be honest. And other people do that better than me. So I like to put things in the world that communicate what I'm about, and then that hopefully then brings in clients. Because everything I'm showing you tonight is, none of this is commercial stuff in the traditional sense, but eventually it does lead to work. And this is one such thing that was an iteration that was originally done for the London Design Festival. I think we're a network of people rather than a network of machines. That's what the web is. We easily forget though that the people behind those Twitter handles and those usernames are actually human beings. So I wanted to make a machine that kind of reminded us of that. So I made this ridiculous thing called the Happiness Machine. So this was a thing that I was using, all these things are out there that you can use. We Feel Fine is an amazing website that I'm sure many of you know that collects feelings. And there's an API that you can use. So I decided to make this machine. So the idea is you press a button and it prints out from a random stranger across the internet, a random feeling where someone mentioned the word happy. And it prints it out like a receipt. And you take it away and you tear it off and you put it in your wallet, your purse, you give it to someone, you pin it on your wall, you throw it away, it doesn't really matter. And it was just that, suddenly it was like, oh yeah, there's actually people, we're people connected to this thing. And people seem to really love it. What was interesting for me, when it was at the London Design Festival, a guy came up to me and said, maybe it was the same guy in Chicago, maybe he's stalking me, I don't know. And he said, well, it's really simple what you've done though, isn't it? I was like, yeah, that's the good thing. And he was seeing it from a geek point of view, an engineer's point of view. He wanted something really complicated. I said, well, yeah, it's just a printer that connects to the thing, you press it. But the difference is, mate, that this has a concept wrapped around it. It's not called the internet printer, or whatever, it's not some geeky name. It's got a concept that people fell in love with, and that's what that's what a product is. It's not just the end thing. It's the box and the branding, the name. Incidentally, any project you do, give it a name. Give it a good name, because it's easier to talk about things when they have a name. So I see all these, and also make decent films of your stuff. A lot of times I see it's 10 minutes of the guy, just going on. So yeah, put this, and this has been featured in lots of blogs. And again, it's one of these things that, a Saturday morning project or whatever, or it took me several weeks, and it's, but it goes out and it all comes back to me, and I get commissions based off that. I like to push buttons, essentially. Do you remember when you used to get, I guess we don't get them anymore, and you're all too young to remember them, a lot of you, but graphic equalizers. You got a graphic equalizer with 16 bands. You had no idea what they did, right? But you would push these things, and you were like, oh, buttons, and you push them up and down, and the world didn't end. You just made, Human League more tinny, or whatever. And it was just fun, pushing these levers up and down. And I think that's what we do when we get any new technology. We go through this process of trying things, pushing buttons, seeing where it will go, and then eventually things become more sophisticated. Our use becomes more sophisticated. It's like when sampling first came along and people were making records sampling their dogs and stuff. Sampling didn't disappear, we just got a lot more sophisticated with it. But back then it was okay to make a lot of rubbish. So I, back in 2010, I bought and built the MakerBot Fingermatic, which, kind of blew my mind. My wife came into the dining room when I was building it, and she said, what are you doing? I said, I am building the future. And she just wanted the dining room back, to be honest. But so I built this thing, and to me it was amazing that you can design something, press a button, and this thing appears physically. And of course, rapid prototyping has been around since the 80s, mid-80s. But now the context changes because suddenly designers can have this thing sat on the desk and, so what does that mean? Well, at first it means you make a lot of crap. So this is a year of MakerBots, my first year. I mean, I don't need pliers that don't work. I don't need a space rocket. Space rockets are cool. I don't need a mini Empire State Building. Who needs that? But it's okay. We're just pushing, seeing where it go, we're getting used to technology, practicing, that's all we're doing. Essentially, this is basically practicing landfill. So, and you have to step back, eventually you step back and go, this ain't right. So we have to question what we're going to be making with all this stuff. Nowadays, I tend to do, because a lot of my work is code-based. I'm trying to fuse code with 3D objects and stuff, and printing stuff out. And this is a point I wanted to make as well. Everything starts out ugly. All your first prototypes, well, certainly mine, maybe yours are beautiful, but mine are ugly, And I think there's if we did a graph, the beauty should be going up towards the end over time. But the first one's ugly, horribleness. So like this, I had the idea of, and this isn't a new idea by any stretch of the imagination, but the idea of taking music and creating a format of the music. So yeah, here's a bit of Brian Eno for you. Starts out beautiful and goes weird. I think I was, what the hell? So these are sound frequencies pushing. It starts with like a sphere, and then the frequencies are mapped around this object as it grows and pushes it in different directions. It's all made by the sound. Well, of course, it's a little bit weird. I wouldn't really want this in my house, but it's okay. It's ugly. It's the first prototype. All babies are ugly when they're born. Get over it. So they are right. So then you play with this stuff and you start to figure it out a bit more. Practice. The great thing with code is you're playing with these variables that you can just play with and alter one line of code. So what if we map a whole song around a torus and maybe give it a bit of a twist? And what if you're obsessed, you like the 80s? I did an exhibition in Sheffield earlier in the month. So I did a lot of Sheffield bands. So you can see that the sound is working its way around the shape and pushing it around. I'm not going to play the whole song, obviously, but eventually you get that, which is a representation of the Human League's Sound of the Crowd. Amazing song, no arguments. And you can hold that in your hand. Remember when we used to hold vinyl in our hands? Now we can once again hold digital songs in our hands, and maybe have that on the wall. And someone comes into your house and goes, "What's that?" And you go, "Well, actually, it's the Human League. Do you like the Human League?" "Oh yeah, I saw them in so and so." So it starts conversations. No one's going to start a conversation by seeing it on your hard disk. But then again, we've got Facebook and stuff, and we share stuff, and that starts conversations. So that both can exist. And this is just a different take on it. Almost done. Holding data in your hands is kind of the thing I'm obsessed with now. So I've been playing around with these ideas. This is my Twitter archive from, I think, 2012. So you can download your Twitter archive as a zip file, and then you go, great, now what? So if you're like me, and I just iterated off that thing you saw before. So rather than reading in music, sound frequencies, I can read in rows of CSV data, and then push, in this case, a cube. And the spikes is how often I spoke on Twitter during that year. But I guess what's more interesting is when you compare them. So the first one on the left is when I started on Twitter in 2008, and you can see, didn't really know what it was. I was like, didn't really get it, didn't really tweet a lot. And then, I think the next one is 2 years later. And then by 2012, I'm just talking a lot of shit. And you can physically see that. The differences are quite stark. You can hold these things in hand. So, yeah. And then, ladies and gentlemen, data waffles. Thank you. So this is Twitter again. This is 2008. 2012, let's look at that. So these are, I have no idea where I'm going with this. If there's another one, someone's going to go, what's the point? So yeah, no idea. But who knows, it's kind of maybe an interesting thing to play around with, the idea of data as a physical form. So just to finish off with, to bring it back to sort of records, and back in the day, graphic designers would use record covers, to put their graphic design ideas out there, and great platform, 12-inch sleeve and everything. And I think now, for me at least, designing apps, I kind of love designing handheld apps rather than iPad apps, because I like the idea of these things being held in your hand. I think you have a much more intimate experience with them. I think that's why we like our phones so much. When we have them with us all the time, we hold them in our hands. When you hold things in your hands, they kind of mean more to you. But yeah, so I do like my own apps, and really there's a way for me to practice getting better, become a better graphic designer, and also again to put stuff. Apple is kind of a publisher for me, like for anyone in this room, or Android or whatever. And you put these ideas out into the world. I'm not interested in following your trend stuff or making an app, making Flappy Birds or something like that. It doesn't interest me. If someone else wants to do that, cool. But the one on the left is, I mentioned the button that marks the now. Well, that's the iPhone version. It's called Kennedy, and that's been, it's been written about on The Verge, and did an interview with Forbes the other day. It was crazy, and I'm just some idiot in the northwest of England. I'm not in the Bay Area. I don't have a team of 20, and this was #1 in the lifestyle category in the US for a while, and then it just falls off a cliff. But the point is, it's all possible. One person can do this. So I'm going to leave you with that. Go out there, make stuff, make interesting stuff, disrupt people, upset people, and most of all, have a lot of fun. Thank you very much.